What is happening, beautiful people of the YouTube? Welcome back to a bit of a different video, though you may remember back in prep as if it was ages ago. I almost kind of did like a talking over the infographic post that I was putting out. Obviously that got put on hold. However, I want to resume that as people will find benefit and stuff like that. So today we have got the most recent infographic. As of the time of recording this is basically just pre-prep diet 101, and I am very biased towards the pre-prep diet, I must say, because of my experience with it and everyone that I've seen around me's experience with it. It has been very, very positive, and when used efficiently, it can be a really, really good, so almost kind of catalyst to improving your prep realistically. So let's just get cracking in with things. First and foremost, what is a pre-prep diet? A pre-prep diet to most people will be a short stint of fat loss, which is followed by a sort of gaining / metabolic improvement phase. Metabolic improvement phase just meaning improving your metabolism, and how do you do that? Just a case of pushing food up, just to push baseline food up to give you more of a runway to diet from. Though the pre-prep diet is like here, then metabolic improvement phase here, it's sort of blocked in the middle between, pre-prep diet and then followed by prep itself. So when it comes to a pre-prep diet, it's for most people, and I think the way it should be almost like a kind of get in, get out mentality, where you get in, you get lean, and you get out. It's as simple as that. It's basically just the first sort of fat loss stint phase, first sort of stint of fat loss surrounding sort of contest prep, really. So within obviously pre-prep, we've got the goals of our pre-prep. So the goals of a pre-prep is to effectively set yourself up productively for prep. Now that comes in the form of first and foremost manipulating your body composition start point for prep. Now I do think it is beneficial to start lean, however I will speak on this and later on in this video. So first and foremost, you're manipulating your body composition start point to suit your timeline, to suit obviously your season shows, the show timeline, whatever you want to call it. Also, you're going to be getting valuable experience. You want to be experiencing what it's like to be in a deficit, experiencing what it's like to be lean, to have expenditure maybe even high. Again, just all the sort of valuable diet experiences, and as well as that, you're obviously learning more about your body as well. So that's obviously the goals of a pre-prep diet. And another thing I think should be to almost mirror what it's like in a prep setting. So for example, you would not eat off plan, or I don't think you should, in my opinion, eat off plan in a prep setting. So I don't think you should be eating off plan in a pre-prep setting either. Now, I think the reason for this, again, this is a sort of topic of discussion for another day. However, I think obviously the goal, obviously, as I said, is to mirror a prep, and I don't think you should be eating off plan in a prep because it just blurs the lines massively. You could say, for example, be going every other Saturday and getting a Nando's and saying that it's standardised, I get the same order every single time, the calories are on the menu. Now, what I would say to that, either you're just plain dumb to the fact that there's a massive discrepancy for what these restaurants are allowed to put on their menus in comparison to what's actually on the fucking plate, or you're just ignoring the fact that there is a discrepancy. And even if you are saying, I'm going to get the same order every single week, listen, are the chips you're getting fried in the same amount of oil? Are you getting the same amount of chips? Is the butterfly chicken the same weight? Are you getting the same amount of veg? Again, it blurs the lines for me. So from my standpoint as a coach, I do not like off-plan eating in a prep setting, and therefore not really a pre-prep setting either. Now again, there is obviously some wiggle room, but again, I think the main sort of primary goal is to make pre-prep, a sort of direct mirror to prep. Now, when it comes to the benefits of pre-prep, Now, as I touched on at the start of manipulating body composition, you can start prep in a leaner body composition. Now, what this basically means is you don't have to be as aggressive with fat loss. So when you're not having to be as aggressive with fat loss, you can then therefore protect training performance. You can then protect sleep to a certain degree. Obviously, when body composition is in a super lean space, that kind of takes over in terms of sleep. And you can also protect recovery as well, sort of linking in with sleep there. Now, when you do start in a lean composition, which would be a leaner composition, again, that's obviously super subjective, but not having a lot of weight to take off, a lot of body fat to take off is sort of my preferred way of starting a contest prep. Now, I like to get my athletes pretty lean when it comes to a pre-prep diet, and again, for the reasons I kind of said just there with regards to it allows for a less aggressive prep, and again, for the reasons of sort of protecting training performance, because at the end of the day, no matter what phase you're in, training performance is always going to be golden. Now, again, protecting training performance doesn't necessarily, again, this is touching on another topic, it doesn't need to necessarily look like just matching numbers on the logbook every week, but again, just basically going in and providing an almost an adequate level of stimulus to be preserving muscle tissue, and that should be the goal obviously towards the end of a contest prep. Now, when it comes to more benefits of a pre-prep, again, it's almost like that the flip of the switch mentally. Like, this is almost as I say, it's the initial sort of fat loss stint of prep, and it's that changing the headspace from off season or gaining phase to right, prep is here, it's just around the corner. So now this is almost, I hate to say it, it's like I'm going to lock in now, because at the end of the day you should have been not again 100% locked in, but again 90-95% finding your balance. You should be 90-95% locked in anyways, but it's just about kind of fine tuning these little details and being super on your shit from this point onwards through prep, so that when prep comes around, it's not like an almost big shock to the system in a way that like it takes you a while to adapt it. You don't want that at all. You want to be hitting the ground running and just cracking on with fat loss out the gates, getting yourself in a productive state, and making sure that you are ready. Again, I'm going to say ready early, but ready obviously not too early as well. Now, the potential drawbacks of a pre-prep. Again, now this is it's super subjective, of course. Now, you could be in a place where you get lean in a pre-prep diet, and you then transition into that metabolic improvement phase, into that little short stint of gaining, and you're almost kind of scared, or even if you're not scared of accruing body fat can be a little bit difficult for some people, myself included. Now, that may lead to you being a little bit behind in terms of how much body fat you accrue, and then you're starting prep from leaner than what you actually want to be, and again, you could be then ready too early, and then holding stage condition for obviously too long, again, just leads to a physique fading, especially when we're talking about natural bodybuilding here. Now, a solution to this, I'm going to come up with two solutions. One being going off of the valuable data that you have in your pre-prep, so you know roughly where you're going to be within shooting distance or striking distance of a rough sort of stage condition, and you obviously have a rough stage weight for that. Now, another sort of solution is to just simply push the prep back further. Now, say for example you're only in prep 6, 8, 10 weeks before your first show. Again, for some people you might think, 6 weeks into a prep, that's pretty early, but again, it's obviously body composition dependent, so you could simply just, if you are too lean, just push your prep start point back that little bit further, and again, it will just allow for a more smooth sailing prep. Now, what I will say as well is within that sort of period between prep and between pre-prep and prep, we're sort of referring to it as the metabolic improvement phase, or also just a short stint of gaining, however you want to word it. You need to be making sure that there are little, or in an ideal circumstance, in an ideal world, zilch negative diet adaptations sort of lingering around, whether that be from like a almost general day-to-day feeling sort of standpoint, from a hormonal standpoint, from a sleep standpoint, from a food focus standpoint even. And how you can prevent this is through, you know, better managing your phases prior, so that you don't need to dig for ages and weeks on weeks on weeks to the point where your pre-prep diet is 20 plus weeks, or you're having to take off like upwards of say 10-12 kilos, for example. And again, this all, it just does relate back to when you want to prep, it starts ages and ages back, just so that everything can be ironed out. You want to prep. Basically, the bottom line is, if you want to prep, you need to start with a coach as soon as possible. And again, it's obviously, it's going to sound like that coming from me, and I don't want it to come across as that. However, that is ultimately the sort of protocol that I went for when I wanted to start pursuing bodybuilding. I got a coach in that same sort of instant almost, and again, I've never looked back since, and I don't think that I would change anything looking back on that now. So again, that's like the kind of protocol and the sort of outlook that I have on pre-prep and prep as a whole. To be honest, it does start in the preparation for it. Every phase sort of starts in the phase prior, and it does just really highlight the fact that you need to be on your shit for a long period of time to sort of have the best outcome when it comes to a bodybuilding prep. So again, that kind of highlights the protocol and also the potential drawbacks of a pre-prep diet. Now, just a kind of summary and conclusion from my own personal opinion. I must preface this by saying that I like to get my athletes leaner in a pre-prep setting, because again, it just does allow for that positive experience. You know what it's like to be lean, and again, it sort of allows for almost a smoother sailing prep setting as well. And that's what's happened with myself, and that allowed for a smoother sailing prep for myself. This is just my kind of preferred methodology of doing things. And obviously, as I progress throughout my coaching career, I will be introduced and sort of exposed to different ways of doing things, which will obviously be experimented with, and as it should be as well. So but I just want to wrap this up by saying that is my sort of preferred method of going about things, basically for the reasons stated. And I do think the positives far outweigh the negatives here when it comes to starting prep from a leaner sort of body composition standpoint as well. And another sort of thing to combat the ready too early, you can almost always pull someone out of a deficit through strings of high days. And again, that's obviously going to be keeping people fresh as well, both from a physical standpoint and from a mental standpoint as well. You can't overlook the fact that more food, when you hear more food as an athlete, that's refreshing, and that's a stress drop off in itself, knowing that you've even just got as little as an extra fucking 35 grams of carbs on a day. That is a stress drop off as well. So when you are ready sort of earlier, when you're in a leaner body composition, you can afford to sort of have these bouts of high days, these bouts of refeeds. And again, though, if you are ready too early to an extreme sort of standpoint, you can look to implement a diet break too. So that wraps up everything from a pre-prep diet standpoint, my kind of outlook on it, obviously in relation to the most recent infographic post. Any questions that you do have, do not hesitate to pop them down below in the comments. Fire them across to me via Instagram or anything of the sorts. And until the next video that's going to be similar to this, I've not got a name for this sort of series. It's just going to be an infographic sort of series, talking over everything, sort of giving you guys more of an insight as to my thought process behind the information that I'm giving out, both as a coach and also as an athlete too. So yeah, that does wrap up today's video. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment, share on your stories, tag me, all of the above. And until the next episode, I'll speak to you soon. See ya.